By hook or by needles we'll craft away, stitch by stitch we'll brighten the day, knitting and crocheting just for fun.
Good morning and welcome to By Hook or By Needles. My name is Sam, and today I'm going to show you how to do the honeycomb stitch. Now the honeycomb stitch is performed over 2 stitches, but it's a 4 stitch repeat. So the front half is over the 2 and the second half is over the next 2. I've cast on 16 stitches, but I'm using the end 2 stitches on each end, which is 4, as just knit stitches. That just makes it a little bit easier to work with to show you how we do this honeycomb stitch. So we start off by just knitting 2. Now the cable, or the honeycomb stitch, sorry, is made up of 2 stitches. They are called C2F and C2B. C2F means cross to front. C2B I'm trying to remember, make sure I get it right. The C2B means cross to back. Now, as I think I've said, if you've watched any of my other videos on cables, that with the cable stitches, and they mention a number, the number does not mean the number of stitches that you're putting onto a cable needle if you're using a cable needle. It is actually the total number of stitches included in the stitch or into the cable pattern. Okay, so what does it mean by front? Well, in this case, what it's doing is it's telling us we've got to do a C2F first. So we are going into the front of the second stitch. Now, the way we make this a bit easier to get into is I usually just like to slide my needle in there purlwise, give it a slight tug, and then hold it into place with my finger at the back, as you can see, and then that just makes it a little bit easier to get into that second stitch. And we're just going to perform a normal knit stitch. Then we come to this first stitch without taking anything off the hook needle, and then we're just going to do another knit stitch, and then we're going to pull both stitches off just like that. Okay, very simple. So that's the C2F. F means front. Now with this stitch you always work into the front of the first stitch when you come to work the first stitch. It is the second stitch which changes. A C2F we work into the front of the second stitch. With a C2B we work into the back of the second stitch. So I'm going to do a C2B next because they go in pairs, and I'm going to pick up the back of that stitch. I'm going to knit that first, and then I'm going to come to the first stitch and I'm going to knit that second. Once I've knit both stitches, I'm going to just take both of them off the left hand needle. So then we go back to doing a, see how hard it is to get in. So if you pull it up, we're going to go into this front of the second stitch, and then into the front of the first stitch, and that's a C2F. We're going to turn our work. We're going to go into the back of the second stitch, and we're going to knit, and then into the front of the first stitch and knit, and take both off. Okay, so it's, you can see why, oh, it's very loose, isn't it? Doesn't matter. I think these things will happen. Okay, so we're going to do a C2F. We pull that stitch. We work into the front of the second stitch first, and then to the front of the first stitch, second, and slide off. C2F, we're going to turn our work, and somewhere along the line I've messed up. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17. I've given myself one extra stitch. Not to worry. I thought I only did 16. Okay, sorry. So we're going into the second, into the back of the second stitch, pull forward, and then into the front of the first stitch. I've done both. I'm going to slide them off. Now I started with 2 knit stitches, so I want to end with 2 knit stitches, but because I did the wrong number of cast-ons, just going to knit those last 2 together, just so it doesn't interfere with us anymore. So that is the first row. It is, we do a C2F, C2B, C2F, C2B, all the way across. Okay, the second row is just purl. We purl all the way across. But because I've decided that we're going to have the 2 stitches either end as a little border, a knit border, a garter border, we're going to just going to knit those 2 stitches first. Then we're going to bring our yarn forward and we're going to purl all the way to the end, or to the last 2 stitches, which we will then knit. That's my cat eating his breakfast, if you can hear that munching. Last 2 stitches, yarn to the back, and we're just going to knit those 2. Okay, then we come to our front again. This is our right side. Now we're going to knit these first 2. Now we know from the pattern that we did a C2F first last time and then a C2B. You need to alternate the start. So one row you're going to do a C2F. The next row, when you do your cross stitches, you're going to do a C2B back, because you want them to curve out and then curve in, curve out and in. So you need to change the starting, and you will be able to recognize what you did previously. And I'm hoping this will show up. You can see that this one has come across and up here. So we know that that's come from over the front of the work. Okay, so that was the front. So now we know we need to do a back. Similarly, if we look at these 2, you can see this stitch has gone backwards. Started here, it's gone backwards. So we know that this time we need to do a C2F, because this is C2 back. Okay, so it's just a matter of alternating which stitch you start with, and then just repeating those 2 over and over. So I'm going to start with a C2F. I'm going to pick up the back of the second stitch, knit that first, then knit the first stitch through the front. Then I can pull those 2 up. Now I need to knit into the front of the second stitch first. It lets me get into it. This is where you've got to really be careful that your tension doesn't get too tight. Otherwise you're going to see, I can't get into that stitch right now. There you go. Otherwise you're going to end up not being able to get in there. And so this is not for people who knit very tightly. You're going to find all sorts of problems. So knit into the front of the second stitch, and then knit into the front of the second stitch and pull it off. Now so let's see if we can see. Can you see? I'll use my scissors to do some pointing, I suppose. Okay. you can see, hopefully, this stitch, you can see a little V, a little V, a little V, and it comes back. It's curving out and back in. And the same with this other side. It's curving out and back in. And that's the way you want it to. No, 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 no. I've got a pussycat now. Go away. No, it's not a game. So we started with a C2B, C2F, so now we need to do a C2B. We pick up the back of the second stitch first, and then we go through the front of the first stitch second, pull both stitches off. Then we're doing a C2F. We're going to work through the front of the, front of the second stitch first, and then to the front of the first stitch second, and pull both off. We go to the back, knit back, knit front, and pull them both off. Then we're going to knit front and knit front and pull both off. And then, because we're doing a garter stitch at the edge, we're just going to knit those two stitches there. So that's our third row. Our fourth row is just purling, but of course we're doing a garter at the beginning and end. So we're going to start with 2 knit stitches. Then we're going to purl to the last 2 stitches. And this will be our fourth row, sorry. So this pattern is a 4 stitch repeat and a 4 row repeat, and we've just done our first 4 rows. Get to the last 2 stitches. I'm just going to work those as knit stitches, and then we repeat from the very beginning. So let's have a look. Can you see already? Hopefully you can. This stitch started down here, it's gone out and in. This one's gone out and in. So they start together, then they separate and they come back together. And that's when you get the little dip, which forms the honeycomb. I'll just do one more row so you can see the C2F and the C2B again. Now, if we look, we're going to knit these 2. If we look at the next 2, you can see that this stitch has come back. It's gone back. So we need to do the opposite of what we did the last time. So now we're going to do a C2F. That's the way you can read your work if you happen to put it down and come back and you're not sure whether you finished halfway through a repeat or not. So we need to do the front stitch first. So we're going to get that stitch up. Whoops, stitch up to help us. Then we're going to go into the front of the second stitch, then into the front of the first stitch for our C2F. I'm going to flip our work. I'm going to go into the front of, into the back of the second stitch, and then into the front of the first stitch. Oh, that's awfully tight. You've got to be really careful on your purl rows that you don't tighten it up too much. You don't want it really loose, but you don't want it so tight that you can't get your needles in either. And you know, knitting should always be able to glide. If you're pushing or pulling your needles up and down, it's probably too tight. I mean, a lot of people knit when their tension's too tight. That's fine, but they're going to have, you know, difficulty doing some stitches. So like I say, they should sort of glide reasonably freely. So we did a C2F, a C2B, so now we're doing a C2F again. So we need to just pull that stitch out a little bit, make it a bit easier for us to go into, which it doesn't. Knit into the front of the back second stitch, and then into the front of the first stitch, and pull both off. So that's a C2F. Now to a C2B. Pick up the back, into the back of the second stitch, and then into the front of the first stitch. Whoops. Front of the first stitch. And then we yep, that was the, have I made a mistake? Oh no, it's okay. C2F is next. No, I just did a C2F. No, I didn't. What did I just do? I just did a back one. This is a front stitch. So we pull up that stitch. We go into the front of the second stitch. Oh dear. Okay. Helps if you've got some nails sometimes to get into those stitches, and into the front of the first stitch, and then pull it up, and then we got back of the second stitch, front of the first stitch, and take that off, and then the last two stitches are just knit. And now you hopefully you will really see the cable or the honeycomb really starting to take effect. You can see the dips in the middle, which is where the honeycomb is sort of formed. So, but in true 1970s cooking show fashion, here's one I made earlier, and you can see that this is a C2F, C2F, C2B, C2F, C2B, C2F, C2B, and it just snakes up and down all the way there. And then the next stitch is the opposite. So if this is C2F, this is C2B, C2F, C2B, C2F. So these stitches just separate and come back together, separate and come back together. And when they do that, there's like this little dip formed, which is where they gets its name, honeycomb. It's not quite a hexagon, but it still looks very honeycomb-ish. So that is the honeycomb stitch. I hope you can all follow that. If there's any questions or anything, please don't hesitate to ask below, and give me a thumbie if you liked what you saw, and share me out if you know of anybody who is trying to learn how to knit and or crochet. Okay, till next time, thanks for joining. Bye for now. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It doesn't cost a thing to press the button. Thanks.